Well, but that was not all of the program. Because the world title match, and everybody's smart, has a 60-minute time limit, so they put it on earlier in the program so that, people wouldn't be smart. Well, why does the world title match always end right on schedule? But now they had 30 minutes left in the show. And while that's a good idea to put the title match on early in case it would go longer, you got to have something else to put on afterwards. So they come back after Bryan Danielson versus Chris Jericho with Tony Storm and Hikaru Shida against Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. And this was 100 miles an hour, back and forth, nonstop, making no sense whatsoever. A bunch of girls doing all the moves they've figured out how to do and been practicing to each other, one in turn, until finally Shida rolled up Britt Baker. And now you ask, what's their main event going to be? For the A&P title.
A&P?
Well, yeah. Remember, I've mentioned this. That's the original title of, if you ever went down to the A&P grocery store with Aunt Lola to pick up a few things, the A&P was the Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company. When they started the 1800s, and then they grew into the A&P grocery giant. So this is the A&P Championship, the Atlantic and Pacific, because they can't keep track of which body of water these various people come from.
Yeah, someone sent me an image the other day they said was from AEW. I don't know for sure, but it had like a Chinese flag. And they said, what part of the Atlantic is China from?
Yeah. So it's the A&P title. And the A&P title was going to be defended by Pac against Pockets. And I can't tell you how many people on Twitter that when I got up the next day and I turned on the Twitter machine, says somebody checked on Cornette. Is Jim Cornette all right? They put a title, they put a championship on Pockets. Did anybody think that I would be mad that a pretend wrestler won a fake title in this company? I didn't watch this for another reason, because why would you? I'm only watching the serious shit. And even some of that, even though they may intend it to be serious, is not serious. So, but again, they did me a favor here. I got to skip 15 minutes of AEW, but wasn't the idea of the All-Atlantic title because Pac is from the United Kingdom and they wanted to give him something because he's supposed to be a serious top guy? We heard he was signed for a multi-year contract. He's been there, he's been gone, he's been back and forth. He looks like $1 million and can't put a match together to save his fucking life if you held a gun to his head and his family was being dangled over a cliff. Apparently, he still couldn't put a fucking match together. It makes sense, but he's still supposed to be one of the serious top guys, right? And Pockets beats him and wins the meaningless Atlantic title. And the only ocean or body of water that I know of that Pockets has any connection to would be the one that hopefully he's going to be drowned in someday.
Oh, stop it.
So we don't have to look at this anymore. But otherwise, what in the world sense did this make to take it was like when the WWF in, what was it, 97, they made the European title specifically for Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, and to open up more markets in the UK and etc. And then Michaels fucked him around on that pay-per-view and wouldn't put him over like he was supposed to. And then it went downhill from there. It ended up D'Lo Brown was the European champion at one point. I love D'Lo. He's one of my favorite guys in the world, but he didn't have any connection to Europe. All right. Anyway, so that was the last half hour of the program, the girls' tag and the joke match. So what was the ratings? Where did they go on those last two segments?
Well, let me get you the quarterly breakdowns. I'm trying to find the overall rating. I want to say it was 900 something. And where is it? The overall rating was 983,000 viewers. And here's the quarterly breakdown.
Now, last week, they started at 1.2 million and ended up at a little under 900,000, right? Or was it last week was 1.1 and ended up at 800,000? They lost 300,000.
Right. This
so
show,
they started, where'd they start here and where'd they end up?
Quarter one with the debut of Renee Paquette, Christian Cage's promo, and Jack Perry versus Luchasaurus, 1,069,000 viewers. Segment 2, which is more of Jack Perry versus Luchasaurus, as well as The Firm and their issues backstage with Private Party, and Matt Hardy, did 1,045,000 viewers.
I can't believe they never teamed up as a 6-man tag team called Party Hardy.
Don't give them any ideas. That's not bad, though, actually. Segment 3, or quarter 3, Samoa Joe and Wardlow versus QT Marshall and Nick Comoroto, plus the Embassy and FTR and Sean Spears, plus the Jericho Appreciation Society promo, plus Swerve Strickland versus Billy Gunn, 1,071,000 viewers. So that segment went up from the previous one. Quarter 4, the end of Swerve Strickland versus Billy Gunn, including Tony Nese and Mark Sterling's involvement, as well as the Acclaimed, MJF's promo, as well as the beginning of Jon Moxley's promo, 998,000 viewers.
So they're still in the realm of reason there. They're up, they're down, but they're in the groove.
But that was the biggest drop so far. That was a drop of 73,000, but we're going now to the 9 o'clock hour. 9 o'clock hour begins with Jon Moxley and Hangman Page in the ring, followed by Jericho versus Danielson, 983,000 viewers.
Jericho and the world title match dropped. All right.
It was down another 21,000. The next segment, which is quarter 6, the end of Jericho versus Danielson, as well as Nyla Rose's promo, 963,000 viewers. Quarter 7, Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida and Toni Storm, 879,000 viewers, down 84,000, the biggest drop of the night. And following that is quarter 8 for the All-Atlantic Championship, the prestigious All-Atlantic Championship, PAC versus Orange Cassidy, 857,000 viewers.
They lost from the girls' tag. Woo. So
every week. It's every
850,
week.
And they started with what, 1,000 or 1,000? Yeah, 1,070 something or 80 something thousand.
And people saw that MJF wasn't going to be in the first few segments, and a lot of them tuned out when they didn't see any teases for a big MJF thing later on. Jericho has proven that he's not going to pop any number. He's okay to just hold things in place. He's smart enough to get himself out of that main event spot. He got himself to the 9 o'clock hour right after it. And then Orange Cassidy versus Pac. Listen, you don't like Orange Cassidy. I'm not a fan of Orange Cassidy. There are people who love him. Is he as hot today with them as he was 3 years ago? I don't think he's drawing anyone extra. I don't think anyone's going out of their way to see him at this point. And every week, and I hate to say it, the women's match causes a hemorrhage of viewers. No matter what part of the show it's in, it seems like. And usually it's always in the same part of the show. But it causes a mass exodus of viewers. And we could all like women's wrestling. We could all like the best women's wrestlers out there. And we could all want the best for it. But there's a reality that needs to set in at some point.
Well, you know what? When you're hemorrhaging, that's not a good thing, Brian. It's not good to hemorrhage.
What are you going to transition to? This can't be good.
It's not good to hemorrhage. and I thought you were going to say the hemorrhoids, because it's not good to have the hemorrhoids either.
Why did you think I would say that?
Well, it's that one of those hem words, hemorrhoids, hemorrhage. It goes right in together. Sometimes you have hemorrhoids and they hemorrhage. And I'll tell you what, you can stay off the hemorrhoids and the hemorrhaging in one simple way. That's the last thing you want to do is wake up first thing in the morning and either have a hemorrhoid or have it hemorrhage. So you wake up every morning, you have a good, healthy breakfast that enables your evacuation capacity to work at 100%, and as well to make sure that You don't have any sugar and carbohydrates and additives and preservatives and chemicals all clogging up your bloodstream so you don't hemorrhage. So if you want to save yourself from either bleeding to death or falling out your own asshole, ladies and gentlemen, you need to eat a good breakfast. What?
We should just say it in a nice way. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a good idea to begin your day with a healthy breakfast, a nutritious breakfast, something that can give you protein, something that can give you some good taste.
Yes.
And we have a wonderful cereal to talk about right here as I commandeer this spot.
Yes.
Our friends at Magic Spoon.
Yes, they do, and yes, they are, and yes, you will, to all those things that you just said, because, folks, the last thing you want to do, like I said, after you eat breakfast, is either bleed to death or fall out through your own asshole.
Come on.
What you're doing is you're eating good from the start of your day. Magic Spoon, you used to like to eat all this shit when you were a kid. Kids don't get hemorrhoids. But as you're older, you'll find out that you need to make sure that everything that goes through your digestive tract is amenable to your body and its orifices and its various chemical makeup.
Eat more fiber.
That's why. Yes, fiber, because that's what Magic Spoon will do for you. They put all the good stuff in, including taste, and taking out all the bad stuff. Each serving of Magic Spoon cereal contains 0 grams of sugar, 13 grams of protein, and less than 5 grams of net carbs. It's low-carb, keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free. And it's only 140 calories a serving. And boy, you got that fiber you mentioned too. That'll keep you shitting like a goose, ladies and gentlemen. It will just, I'm telling you, this Magic Spoon lubricates your inner digestive system where everything it'll slip out there like whale shit in an ice flow. And you've got options with over 8 unique flavors. Over 8. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9. That's over 8. Cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry muffin, maple waffle, honey nut, cookies and cream, and cinnamon roll. And they all taste great like those classic cereals of old without all of the gunk in it. So whether you like the flavor or the texture, or whether you like the fact that every time you eat this, well, it's just like an evacuation, a fire hose coming out of your anal orifice with all of the bad ingredients that have been stored up in your body for who knows how long. Do you know that sometimes bits of undigested beef can lodge themselves in your colonic tract and be there for years?
Ladies and gentlemen, what he's trying to say is that different people find different things entertaining. But what you don't have to worry about, and I can't believe I'm going to have to say this, is any unusual defecation. It'll be normal defecation. It won't cause you to have any pain. Needless to say, there won't be fire coming out or anything else.
Like a fire hose. It's
you don't have to worry about this. You just have to worry about a nice breakfast. Isn't that right, Jim?
That's right. Just don't bend over in the kitchen. You're liable to knock glasses off the kitchen table.
No, you won't, unless there's an earthquake.
Well, it'll sound like an earthquake when you let one of these fucking farts rip after a big old bowl of Magic Spoon, folks. It gets all of the bad stuff out of you. It gets the gases and the chemicals. It'll just be flushed from your system.
Normal, healthy farts.
Yes, that's what we're looking for. We're trying to get you away from where you are now, and that's with Magic Spoon. So go.
All right.
So go walk out the door. Just turn around now. You're not welcome anymore. Go to magicspoon.com/Jim and you can get a custom bundle of cereal and try the magic for yourself. You will think that David Copperfield has woven his magic wand over your anal orifice and blessed it.
Stop it. What are you doing?
Because you'll feel good.
Does he have a magic wand?
David Copperfield, he's a magician.
Yeah, but he uses his hands
not the Dickens character, but the magician.
Is he a magician or an illusionist? Because there's a difference.
Well, sometimes he can be a pantomimist or a flautist. You know, if you don't like this Magic Spoon for any reason, they will refund your money. No questions asked. I'll tell you, there are better people than me. I'd be asking a lot of questions. I'd crack down. There are some parameters you have to follow. You have to submit a financial statement proving that you need the money.
Nope. That doesn't have to happen.
And also send in your last 3 months bank records and your last 2 years income tax returns. But
keep that to yourself.
Once they evaluate your financial profile,
they won't be doing that.
They won't. So remember, magicspoon.com/Jim. Use the code Jim to save $5 off at checkout for the custom bundle of any of these wonderful flavors. And it even makes the bathroom smell good afterwards. Every time you take a poop in the morning, your whole bathroom will smell like cookies and cream, cinnamon roll, or maple waffle.
We cannot promise that, and Magic Spoon doesn't promise that.
And if you have midnight snacks, your whole bedroom will smell like Honey Nut. magicspoon.com/Jim. Use the code Jim to save $5. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for the time you've spent with us. It was a good run. What emissions or evacuations are you performing over there at the Wrestling News /Arcadian Vanguard /605 headquarters this week?
Well, of course, we're covering all the news on the Wrestling News every day, free Wrestling Daily newscast every morning. Go to thewrestlingnews.com or look for Arcadian Vanguard's The Wrestling News wherever you find your favorite podcast. Hey, did you fall asleep in the middle of Raw? Or perhaps you fell asleep in the middle of Dynamite. Did you forget Rampage existed? Did you hear someone die and you don't know who? You want to know the ratings? You want to hear all of this with no spin? Check out the Wrestling News today for the first time ever. Wrestling News. Just the Wrestling News. That's it. No clickbait, no paywall. Just the Wrestling News. Also want to make mention of the other fine shows on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcasts, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few notes here. The latest 2 episodes of Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam have been a look at Smoky Mountain Wrestling, including Scott Cornish on the show talking about Smoky Mountain Fan Week with John, as well as a look at the promotion. What do you think all these years later? Podcasts still dedicating their time to Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Well, I'd like to thank all of the current wrestling promoters for being so uninteresting we have to go back 30 and 40 years and more.
Did you ever think back then in the midst of all of it, and again, there was a lot of crazy shit happening all around during Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but did you ever think about the idea that people in 30 years will be looking back at what you did, that it is a legacy, it is a body of work that's yours?
You know, at the time, not so much, because obviously we were just struggling to get next week done. But on some level, I knew, because I wanted to do what the other territories hadn't, at least with video, and that's keep my TV shows and keep most of the, major events and etc., which so many other promotions had not kept their libraries of TV shows or whatever. So I knew that I was going to be watching it 30 years later, like I was watching all the tapes I'd already collected. I didn't know whether a ton of other people were going to be or not, but I'm glad they were. And as we've talked about, it holds up because it's wrestling. It's not tied to any time period. It's not the 90s grunge like ECW, or it wasn't tied to a ridiculous amount of pop culture influences. It was wrestling with wrestlers and personal issues, which, as we know from the sign over Jerry Jarrett's desk, personal issues draw money.
We'll hear more about Smoky Mountain Wrestling on Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam at McAdamPod.com, or look for Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Thank you to everyone who's been going through the archives. It's kind of surprising sometimes to see just how many people are still checking out the old episodes of the 605 Super Podcast. More to come. Go through the archives at 605pod.com or look for the 605 Super Podcast wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mothership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll do another one some of these days if you don't have 4 children and 18 other shows and 14 YouTube channels and a partridge in a pear tree.
And that's just the wrestling portfolio.